I have, before we get started here, you know I always send you guys on a little scavenger hunt, right, around the house. So the first week we were running around for brushes. Last week I sent you out for a pen, right? This week, a little more challenging, and if you don't have one, don't freak out, that's okay. We'll find something else for you to do. But if you have one, I'd like you to find a small plastic bag. So this is a 4-gallon bag or something close to it. Some people have these in your bathroom, a little small trash can maybe. If you have one, go ahead and run and get it right now.
Just to have an idea, what is it going to be used for? I got a lot of different bags. What?
You get a lot of different bags? Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to be doing a breathing exercise. So you're actually going to be breathing in and out of the bag.
Okay.
So if you have one that's probably better if it's not really heavily scented.
Okay. Does it have to be a certain size? A gallon?
A gallon would probably be a little small. If you have a 2-gallon, anywhere from 2-gallon to 4-gallon is a pretty good size.
Like a grocery bag.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. You got it. Gail's got one. Awesome. Rex got one. Good deal. All right. Betty's got one. Good. I'm curious, did you guys grab a scented bag or is it unscented?
Unscented.
All right. Very, very good. So we'll just wait until, looks like we'll wait until Rose gets back. Stephanie left us. She's like, I'm out of here. I don't know what you crazy people are doing, but. We're going to actually be starting with a couple eye exercises. Question for you guys. Were you able to get the PDF of those vision charts?
Yes.
At least get access to them? Okay. Raise a hand if you printed them out. Oh, gold stars for a few of you.
I have a question about those.
Yeah.
And I might have missed it. You might have said, I'm not clear on how far away we're supposed to put them or how far apart we're supposed to put them. I remember you saying something about shoulder width apart, but I didn't know at what distance.
Yeah, really good question. So these charts right here, these are the letter charts where your eyes are moving back and forth, left to right, and reading the letters. Good rule of thumb for this one is you want to do arm's distance. All right, so if you were holding them about this far apart, this far out, it definitely works best if you tape them or tack them to the wall somewhere, so you don't have to hold on to them. And then starting point for these, I generally start people about shoulders width apart, but we want to work towards putting them 3 feet apart. So you can make note of that, 3 feet. So it's a fairly long ways for your eyes to be able to move side to side and quickly and accurately without moving your head, right? So really good to recap this one. This eye motion is called saccades, S-A-C-C-A-D-E, and your goal is to move your eyes very quickly without moving your head at all, and also be really accurate as to where your eyes are landing on the visual target. Right? I think in the handout, in the PDF, I believe, can I share my screen? Nope. Stephanie is not letting me share my screen today. That's okay. I think in the PDF, if my memory serves me correct, I gave you guys a copy of this size, and then there was another size that was a little bit smaller letters. Does that sound right? Maybe? Or was there just one of this size?
I don't remember. There was another one that was solid, that wasn't broken up. It was like a word find kind of thing.
Okay.
To do with that one.
Okay. Let me. I'm gonna pull that file up real quick so I can be accurate for you guys, and just be sure that I know what I'm talking about here. All right. So
And also I thought you had said that there were directions on how to use them, but I didn't see any directions anywhere.
No, there's not. Sorry, Gail. No directions. You're just getting directions straight from me, so you have to watch the YouTube video over and over and over. So in that PDF, there are 2 pages. One of them has these charts on it. And what you're going to do is you're going to print that off and then cut them apart. Right? Just cut them right down the middle so you have the 2 sheets. And then there's another page that looks like this, but the letters are a little bit smaller. Right? And this has, I think there's 13 letters on this strip. The other one I think has 16. And you'll cut that right down the center of the page too. So you have the 2 strips to work with. Right? That is the only PDF page that you'll have to do arts and crafts with. Cut it down the middle. All right. And then again, general rule of thumb for working on the saccade eye movement is start with 30 seconds to 1 minute. All right? So you may feel totally comfortable working your eyes back and forth for 1 full minute, right? But also know that if this is a new exercise for you, your body and your eye muscles might get to 30 seconds and they might need a break. So you'll probably be able to just feel that. If it feels like it's really straining or fatiguing, or you're getting a little bit dizzy, take a break, and then you can slowly build on that as you get stronger with the eye movement. Good, good? All right, so we're moving on to one of my favorites here. So this chart, there are 2 pages. This may be the one you're talking about, Gail. All right, so there's a page that has little itty bitty letters on it. All right, a 10 by 10, like little itty bitties. And then there's a bigger chart that has also 10 by 10 letters that looks like this. These 2 charts are to be used together, right? We are going to practice this eye exercise right now, and I'm going to talk you through it, right? And I'm going to show you how to do this eye exercise with the charts. I'll also give you an option to do if you don't have the charts that's similar, right? Now, the skill that we're working on with the visual system right now with this drill is your ability for your eyes to come in and look at something very close, process what it's seeing, and then jump out and look at something really far away or farther away and be accurate as to where it lands, where your eyes land, and then process what it's seeing. And then we're going to continue doing that back and forth just like a trombone. Near, far, near, far, near, far. All right, so we call these near fars literally. Great example of when you would normally do this throughout the day is if you drive a car and you ever look at your speedometer, there's your near, and then when you look back out on the road, that's your far, right? And you maybe don't even realize it at all, but your eyes may struggle with that ability, that strength skill, okay? What is very common is as we age, this skill diminishes or weakens, and then as you try to do that skill throughout your day-to-day life, you might find that you become a little more motion sickness, or you might have a little more motion sickness. You might find you start to lose your balance a little bit. You might notice you start to fatigue more, like a 30-minute car ride feels like 3 hours, or even just out walking around, you may feel like you lose a little bit of energy. So this is a really, really important one. How we're going to set this up is, and you can actually do this if you'd like to, or just kind of listen to me talking through it. The big chart here, we want to set it up as far away from us as possible, but at a point where we can still see it, right? And ideally, I'd like you to be able to see it clearly, right? So we're going to move this one a far distance, right? And this will be a different setup for everybody because some people see better, at a far distance. So you set that one up as far as you can. It might be across the room. And then you're going to hold on to the little chart. The little chart you're holding on to, And this one you want as close as you can to your nose, but I prefer you see it clearly again. So if you need to adjust it a little bit, maybe move it out a little in order to see it clearly, that's totally fine. But just know that you're trying to work this one as close to your nose as you can. All right? So we have a near chart, we have a far chart. Okay? Let me add this. If you guys have glasses, this is one of those eye exercises that I want you to try with your glasses on. I also want you to try with your glasses off. Chuck's like, on, off, on, off. All right? If your vision is pretty compromised, you'll probably need your glasses on to do this. All right? And that's okay. All right? So now that you have the chart set up for you individually, you're now going to look at the first letter on the chart, and it says W. Look at the W, say W. Look at the first letter on the far chart, it's a Q. So we'll say Q. And then I'm going the second letter on the small chart, M. Second letter on the big chart, M. N, N, M, W, Q, E. My eyes are going back and forth as I'm reading across the charts. You guys with me? Mm-hmm. All right, doing super good. So you're going to continue this vision sequence for 30 to 60 seconds. Again, kind of gauging your own abilities, all right, as to how long you do that for. I'll give you a goal. Actually, I'm not going to give you a goal yet because we're going to try something. So I'd like you guys to work on setting that up. You don't need to do it now, all right, but after the class, some point today, try to set those charts up, all right, so it makes sense for you. Let's all do together a replacement for these charts. So if you don't have these charts, this is going to be a lot easier. It's not as difficult, all right, but it is going to be similar to using the charts. I want you to grab a pen, if you've got one around. We're going to use, I want you to pick a letter on the pen if you have one, right? Little itty bitty letter, okay? If that's really fuzzy, you can just go ahead and pick you can stare at the very tip of the pen. All right, you're going to use the letter for your near target, or your eyes are looking really close at something. And then I want you to look across your room, and I want you to pick a far target, okay? So I'm going to look past the computer. There's a number 5 on the wall about 15 feet in front of me. So I'm going to use that as my far target. Right? Preferably you pick something really far away. So this is a really good exercise to do outside where you can pick like a stop sign or a building sign or a car that's blocks away even. All right, now I'm going to time you guys and we're going to go near, far, near, far. You're going to make your eyes work back and forth. You guys are going to count, okay? 1 is on the pen, 2 is on the wall, 3 is on the pen, 4 is on the wall. You're going to count. We're going to see how many times you can do that in 30 seconds. On your marks, get set, go. And relax. All right, well done. Okay, raise your hand if you got more than 20. Raise your hand if you got more than 30. Raise your hand if you got more than 40. Chuck, what'd you get? 48. Whoa! Okay, Chuck wins the gold star. All right, well done. Was that a little bit challenging, guys? Like, oddly a little bit challenging and stimulating, right? All right, so that was 30 seconds. If you feel like that wasn't really too bad at all, definitely next time you try it, go for 60 seconds, all right? Double the time, all right? I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a goal. Your goal for your ability to move your eyes back and forth like that in 1 minute is 110 times. Wowza. That is a lot. So
My-
110.
My guess is the chart is going to be a lot harder than me looking, because I'm looking actually out my window
Yeah.
and I'm thinking it's so, and it's still 110 using the charts.
Yes. Yes, you're absolutely right, Chuck. The chart will be a lot more difficult because you have to be more accurate, right? You're going to start doing this chart and you're going to lose your spot. You lose your place, right? You're going to be like, oh, shoot, where was I? And then you're going to have to recorrect, and it's way, way harder. This requires a lot more brain processing, right? So definitely work on the chart. Yeah, I would imagine that when you're just doing the pen the way that we did it right now, you'll be able to work up to getting 100 to 110 in a minute. It'll take some effort, probably, but you'll be able to get there. But it doesn't totally replace the letter charts. All right? Good, good, good. That exercise has a lot to do with your ability to process information really, really quickly. Activates a lot of different brain areas. I'll also just add a side note that the muscles involved and the brain areas involved in that eye exercise has a lot to do with some hormones. It has a lot to do with blood flow. It also has to do with pain regulation. So the better you can do that visual skill, the better opportunity your body has to regulate things properly. And it really goes into some really cool stuff. All right, you guys doing okay? Good, good. I'm going to double check here and make sure that we did cover. So we covered the saccades. That's the letters back and forth. We did last week. All right, do you guys have questions on the stars and the squares? We did those last week. All right, thumbs up if you feel like you're good with those. I don't know, they're challenging, right? The coordination charts. All right, remember, stars are for hands, squares are for feet, right? Reading and responding to those. All right, awesome stuff. All right, so let's go ahead and get into this, what this bag is all about, right? Hey, is Stephanie still there? Stephanie?
I'm here.
Hey, how are you?
Fine.
Is there any chance that I could share my screen?
Yes.
If
Let's
not,
see.
it's okay. But I thought I would just ask if it's possible.
I gotta rethink how to do that.
So while Stephanie's kind of looking to see if she can do that, here's what we're going to do with the bag. Is I want you to open up the bag and go ahead and get some air in it. All right? And then you're going to grab one corner of the bag. We have a giant hole in this bag. What we want to do is create a little bit smaller opening. And so I'm going to grab a corner. I'm going to pull down a little bit. I'm going to tie a knot in it. So we end up with a smaller opening. Oh, you guys are like, what are we doing with a plastic bag? Never a dull moment around here. All right.
Okay.
Good, good.
I think you're set up to share, Lucas.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, guys. So here's what we're going to be doing, and I'm going to kind of show you why in a minute. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be breathing into the bag. We're going to be rebreathing our own air. Okay? I'm making an assumption here that at some point throughout your life, you've either witnessed, experienced, or heard about somebody who is hyperventilating or having a panic attack, and you give them a bag, maybe a paper bag, right? And you have them breathe into the paper bag to help them calm down. Raise a hand if you've heard of that or experienced it. A couple. Okay, a few. All right. So there's actually a lot of science behind that as to why that is helpful or why that may be helpful for somebody. Okay? What we're going to be working on is essentially increasing our own carbon dioxide, CO2, not to be confused with carbon monoxide, right? Carbon dioxide, CO2, I think we commonly think about it as exhaust. Like it's something that it's like our own personal exhaust, and we blow it off and we want to just get rid of that stuff, right? And that's way off the mark. Retaining carbon dioxide internally, and therefore, in a way, reducing oxygen levels for a short period of time has incredible health benefits. And so here's a little bit of the science behind it. I can't tell you everything because that would be a 2-day course. But in one way that our cells actually get more oxygen is through something called the Bohr effect, B-O-H-R, if you want to look into it a little bit more. But what happens is when there's carbon dioxide available around a cell, it creates better absorption for oxygen to get into the cell where it needs to be. Okay? The lack of carbon dioxide, when there's not as much available, that oxygen doesn't get into the molecule as well. Right? It's kind of like the oxygen's walking around going like, hey, where's carbon dioxide? And it doesn't see any, and it's like, well, see you later. So it doesn't get absorbed, right? So increase in carbon dioxide equals better oxygen absorption. Okay? So if you've been to the hospital and they put an oxygen mask on you, they're kind of force oxygenating your body, right? They're trying to pump it in, okay? This technique is going to be, it's one technique that we use to try to reduce or try to increase carbon dioxide so that then when we're normally living our day-to-day life, we're actually absorbing more of the oxygen that we're breathing in, okay? May seem counterintuitive, but once you, so I tell you what, we're going to do a round, and then I'll talk to you, I'll share my screen with something here. So here's what we're going to do. You're going to blow up the bag. All right, and we're going to grab a hole one each side. At any point you feel uncomfortable, dizzy, lightheaded, panicky, put the bag down. All right, let's be smart here, people. All right, so we're going to blow into the bag first. So take a big breath in, blow into the bag. Good. Now, I'm wrapping my fingers. I'm going to drop the bag and just show you my technique. All right, I'm wrapping my hands and fingers around my nose and around my mouth. I'm trying to seal the bag around my nose and my mouth. Good. Now we're just breathing. Okay, you're just breathing normal, in and out. Normal breaths. And you just continue breathing normally. You can inhale, you can breathe through your nose or your mouth, whichever is more comfortable. In the bag, it takes a little practice, a little learning curve to get used to using the bag. Now, at some point here in the near future, you guys are going to get air hungry. You're going to start to feel like, I need air, right? That's what we're striving to achieve. We're trying to get to that point, right, where it's a little uncomfortable. Now, once you achieve that air hunger state, I want you to put the bag down, and I want you to try to breathe very lightly through your nose. Okay, I want you to fight that urge to take a gasping recovery breath. Okay? And you can kind of tell yourself, relax body, I'm okay. I don't need a lot of air to survive. This is a new metabolic state that I'm teaching you to be in. And you'll probably recover pretty quickly from that. Right? Little uncomfortable, yeah? Definitely. All right, so this is bag breathing. We just did one round. How I generally encourage people to practice this is once you feel like you've recovered, you go back to another round. Then you recover, go back to another round, and you're going to do this for a 5 to 15 minute period. 5 to 15 minutes, you're going to cycle through this, right? All the time as you're going along, you're subjectively assessing your body. If you get fatigued, take a break. If you start feeling funny, take a break. If you start getting a headache, take a break, right? For most people, the increase in carbon dioxide is incredibly relaxing. It is CO2 is a vasodilator, so it increases blood flow. It's a thermoregulator, so you may get warmed up. It's also a muscle relaxant, so you may feel that it relaxes your body, relaxes muscle tissue. Right?
Also, when you do it, it lowers your blood pressure.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. It definitely also has the a common effect of lowering blood pressure, better regulating blood pressure, definitely. All right, so this is a really good way to work on that skill and ultimately getting better oxygen to your cells. I'm going to give you guys one other really simple recommendation because not everybody's comfortable using a bag, especially if you're like claustrophobic in any way. If you take your finger right here under your nose, all right, and go ahead and do that. And I want you to try to breathe through your nose. And now I want you to try to breathe so soft that you cannot feel the air on your finger. So when you exhale, you have to exhale really slow and soft. And if you can feel it strongly, just sit there for a little bit and see if you can make it lighter and lighter and lighter. If you practice this and make it as light as possible for a minute to anywhere from 1 minute to 5 minutes at a time, you'll probably notice you start to feel a little bit of that air hunger that we just talked about. You might feel like you want to take a big gasping recovery breath, right? And for now, with just this skill, I'd encourage you to try not to do that. All right, you're trying to breathe really, really lightly, all right? So there's times where we want to breathe and take big, deep breaths, right? And there's a lot of good things from that. This is a very different skill. This is working on increasing carbon dioxide and teaching our body a different metabolic process, right? Okay, so I'm going to share a screen with you in just a second, but first I want to ask if there's any questions on that. You guys are awesome. You guys are so good. Okay, so I'm going to share a screen. We're going to talk about brain feeding patterns. All right, let's see. All right, can you guys see that? Okay. All right, so we're talking about brain feeding patterns. We've started talking about your brain right away from week 1 and how it has this stress bucket, and we pile all these things in our stress bucket, and then we're going to work on eliminating or removing things from your stress bucket. Well, in order to make any kind of brain change, the brain has to have fuel, right? So we're working on activating different brain areas and improving the efficiency of our movement, all right, and the health of our brain. But it also needs fuel, all right? Pop quiz here, guys. Does anybody know what fuel the brain needs in order to operate and what fuel it needs to be able to change and grow and develop? It's like Jeopardy. Do 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 do. No takers. Guys are like, I don't even want to guess.
I assume it's oxygen.
Yes, oxygen is one. So it needs oxygen absolutely. You get a gold star for that, Gail. And then it needs one more thing. And that is glucose. All right, so yes, it needs sugar. All right, glucose is one type of sugar. So the brain needs glucose and oxygen both together in order to make good healthy change and develop. All right, so it needs food, right? What's really interesting about this picture we're looking at, the brain feeding pattern, is this is how your brain gets fed, meaning there are areas of the brain that gets fed last. So if you've ever been the last one in line at a potluck, or the last one in line at at school or whatever, and you're the last one in line and you're thinking, oh gosh, I hope there's a Twinkie left. Oh, I hope there's my favorite applesauce. I hope there's a little bit left, of that barbecue. And there are times where you're that last person in line and you get up to the food and no macaroni salad left. Nobody saved you any. They ate it all, right? There are less resources for that last person in line. There's less fuel. Now, what does that do to that last person in line? Oftentimes makes them a little grumpy, all right, and a little irritated. So this chart here, how the brain gets fed is the base of the brain gets fuel first. It gets oxygen and it gets glucose first. Because that area, that brainstem area, it is in charge of autonomics. It's in charge of gut function, respiration, blood flow. It is involved of all the things that your body needs to do in order to stay alive. So it makes sense to keep that happy first, right? Then as we move up, the areas kind of the back part of the brain, that's where you get into like all the visual processing, everything your eyes do and your eyes see and take in, auditory processing, all the sound, memory as you move up even further, memory and learning, all right? And then as you continue to go further, the purple areas, the dark purple, light purple, that's feeling stuff, like when you're brushing and you feel it, or warm and cold, and that's movement. The light purple area, and then getting into that reddish area, that's where we do movement. So when you're specifically trying to move in a new way, or a different way, or even go for a walk, okay, that stimulates movement, that's motor function. And then way up in the front, that big red area, that's the thinker. That is the problem solver, the decision maker, the contemplator, the what should we have for dinner, honey? Have you ever had a moment where somebody asks you what you should have for dinner or where you want to eat and you cannot decide? You're like, I don't know, and it's stressful and you have an argument about it even, maybe. And it seems so silly, but the truth of the matter is that part of your brain isn't getting good fuel. If it's not getting good fuel and activation, you won't be able to think and make decisions, even if they're very, very simple decisions. Right? So it's common at the end of a long work day, or if you've been really busy throughout the day, that area of your brain could be underfueled, and therefore it's not going to activate well. Right? This also explains why some people have a really hard time having conversations, even like talk therapy can be really, really challenging for some people. Anything you do where you are forced to not move, contemplate, make decisions, and try to process a lot of information and maybe rationalize. Most of us, especially if our brains are really stressed out and not getting good fuel, for most of us in that situation, the brainstem area is getting good fuel, but the rest of the brain is not. That is where you get like childlike behavior, irrational thinking, right? I just want my macaroni salad, right? And you're willing to fight, beg, and steal for macaroni salad because the front of your brain isn't getting good activation, so you can't rationalize and actually have a conversation, right? So, does that kind of make sense, you guys? All So with, I'm adding this in here because it's really important on perspective. So we are trying to get more activation to those upper areas of your brain by teaching you new ways to move, teaching new ways to move your eyes, right? Breathing, okay? Brushing, sensory stimulus. We're trying to get all this activation. And then we have to remember, with the activation, we also need fuel, okay? So the bag breathing takes us into the fuel conversation and a fuel understanding. And then the other thing is recognize that you need movement and you need food, right? So one of my favorite sayings is, if you are stressed, take a snack for a walk. Don't just sit and have a snack, but literally take a snack for a walk, all right? Because you get walking, you're going to stimulate movement and activate more of that upper area of the brain. You're fueling, you're getting some fuel, which will help with the activation of that area of the brain. And take a snack for a walk, and then come back to a challenging conversation or a situation you've stressed out about, all right? Whatever that may be. All right, you guys have questions on brain fuel patterns and all that stuff we just talked about? Good. All right, good stuff, guys. So what I'd like to finish up with for just a few extra minutes, if you guys are good with that, is I want to take you through a couple more movements. All right, a couple more movements. And let's go ahead and start with a couple of the foot movements that we went over last week. So if you're comfy, you can stay seated in your chair for these. We're going to do some ankle tilts and some foot flexion extension waves. All right, so remember the tilt is, we're just tilting straight to the side. And then I remember my socks are like camouflage, the black mat. All right, so we're tilting our ankle to the side. And we're trying to get a little movement way down, right below that bony bump that sticks out on the side of your foot. All right, let's do a couple of those on each side. Tilting to the side. And if you're standing, you can slowly put a little bit of weight on that foot. All right, challenging those ligaments and the tendons. Good. All right, nice. Now, let's go ahead and do some foot flexion and extension waves. If my memory is correct, I think we did this on week 1. You can absolutely stay sitting down in a chair, but I'm up, so I'm going to stay up. What we're going to do here is we're going to try to curl just the toes, and then the ankle goes down as far as you can. And then just the toes coming back first, and then the ankle comes back. So toes lead the way, and toes lead the way on the way back. And we're trying to create a nice smooth wave-like motion out of the toes, the bones in the feet, and the ankle. This is a really incredible exercise for all the arch muscles. All right. If you want to work, if you guys are currently wearing arch supports and you want to work your way out of them, this is a very, very important movement to practice. To strengthen all the tendons and muscles on the bottom of the foot. Okay, now these are some work. We're going to switch directions. You're going to keep your toes back, you're going to push down, and then you're going to curl the toes as you pull the foot back this way. And the arch on the bottom of the foot really activates. So we make a wave-like motion or like a grabbing motion with the toes. Nice. All right, let's do a couple with the other foot. Couple with the other foot kind of quick. All right, so we're going to go toes first, and then toes come back, leading the way. So this is the first direction of the wave. It would be an awesome idea, just a side note, guys, to do some brushing before you work on these foot movements. All right, because we stimulate the sensory areas of the brain. It will help the motor areas of the brain work a little bit better. All right, we're going to reverse directions. Keeping the toes back, we're going to push down, and we're going to grab on the way back. Good. Careful not to cramp. It is common when you start working on these and you really start working, getting that arch muscle to contract a little bit better. It's normal for it to cramp if it's not used to working in that way.
So how
right,
do you
guys.
keep it from cramping? What do you do when, because my toes are really short and they cramp.
They cramp a lot.
Do you just keep going like gently or what?
Yes, definitely keep going gently, right? Kind of like work to the edge of that cramp, right?
Okay.
Encourage that edge, and as you get more repetitions on that edge, it will probably slowly dissipate a little bit and disappear. The other thing is, like how I mentioned, using the brush. The thing that seems to be helpful is to stimulate the bottom of your foot a whole bunch. So you can try using the brush. If the brush doesn't help at all, you could try something else like warmth, right? Something a little bit warm or something a little bit cool to stimulate that muscle area differently. Yep.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, you bet. All right, guys, let's try one more movement here that I don't think we've done. This is for your thoracic spine, the middle part of your back where all the ribs attach to. What we're going to try to do here is we're going to try to round or curve the middle part of your back. You're thinking of your sternum bone sinking inward or moving towards your back. You're going to exhale in this position, and then you're going to inhale and extend the spine. Imagine your sternum is moving forward and up, and you're trying to bend your back the other direction. This is an inhale. We're going to exhale. As you try to curve it over, sternum moves back. Inhale, sternum moves forward. We're going to go back and forth a few times. Very common. Well, first off, it's very common that this area is stuck in people, especially if you've been on the planet for more than 40, 50 years. All right? It's also really common to use your shoulders, but that's not what we're trying to do. Shoulders are relaxed. They should just hang there. All right? Or use your neck. All right? And we're not trying to move the neck either. We want to try to move the middle part of your spine and get it to glide forward and back. All right? Really helpful to do some back scratching on that middle part of your back as you're working on getting that area of your back to move better. Or if you have a friend that can scratch your back and massage on there a little bit to get those vertebrae moving better, super helpful. Getting that area moving better is incredibly important for shoulder function, for breathing function, for gut function, a lot of different things. All right, so pretty critical area to add to your joint movement repertoire. All right. Good stuff, guys. Time flies when you're having fun. Oh my gosh, I feel like there was a lot of lecture today. A little bit. All right, guys. So questions, concerns, anything you guys like to share before we sign off? A lot of note taking. So our plan, I'll plant the seed a little bit for next week. Next week is going to be, my focus is going to be to recap. All right, recap the parts and the pieces. Plan on bringing your brush. Plan on bringing a bag again. Plan on bringing your vision charts. If you are able to set up your vision charts somewhere close by for next week, that would be incredibly helpful. So I want to kind of run through some of those things fairly quickly, and then we're going to get into a little more conversation about how you can start to individualize your health and movement practice. All right, so we're going to talk about how to start assessing your own nervous system so you can individualize it. Good stuff?
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. You guys are so awesome as usual. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Get going on those eyes and the breathing so I don't even recognize you next week.
Thanks a lot.
All right, guys. Great job. We'll see you next week.
Okay, thank you.